Greetings, everyone. Good morning to those of you who are in the West, and good afternoon to those of you in the Central Zones, and good evening to those of you in the Far East. We're happy to be together with so many people around the world and forming a global community. So I'd like to welcome everyone, and we're very much looking forward to our call today. It's our last community call before we gather in Chartres in July. And we're going to open, as we always do, with an invocation by Apila. So if you will bless us, Apila, we would appreciate that.
So good morning, everyone. And here's the candle from Chartres, Our Lady holding Christ. Lighting the cedar. My mind, my spirit, my love travels overseas, facing the cathedral. I'm cloaked in her love and her wisdom, calling out to us now. Come, renew, remember, and rejoice. The wisdom in the stones, the feet that have walked upon those stones, so smooth, so loved, always opening the way for us. That deep wisdom of the rocks, the colors and light of the stained glass, the mystery of the veil, the luminosity of the altar, the chalice beneath which bubbles an ancient spring, and rock, black and white, rubbing shoulders, caressing each other, and an ancient remembrance of those who loved the earth and knew how to live it. We return to this cathedral today, pilgrims, yearning for that time of wholeness, perpetually with us, and yet in this day so often disconnected. Now in this moment of our circle, of this technological gathering of fire, of purpose, of unity of heart, let us stand strong. When we meet at Chartres, let us embrace and be embraced by the wisdom of Sophia, the mother, the ancient hill, and the springs and waters that flow beneath. I ask for blessings for this community, for safe travel to and from Chartres, for the faculty that we might be well prepared, that things might go smoothly with the church. And I give so much thanks for this opportunity to remember the mysteries of the liberal arts and arithmetica. Oh, I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Apila. Your words ring like golden bells and echo out through the cosmos. And it's just a real blessing to be showered with your invocation. So thank you. So I'd like to welcome everyone again and give you an overview of our schedule for today's call. I'm just going to say a few words this morning, and then Jim will also share a few things with us. And our featured program today, Banafsheh is going to speak some about sacred dance and the mystery and movement of numbers. And Jain is also going to share more of his wisdom about sacred numbers. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to weave together, but we'll find out. And I don't know if Ruth is also going to end up playing some music for us, but that's also possible. So that's our plan for today. And I'd like to just say two things briefly. One is, I haven't yet sent out an email, but it's coming very soon, inviting those of you who are interested in participating in the ritual team, which we will have a ritual team call to orient people who haven't done this before. And then we'll have a meeting at Chartres on Sunday morning before the whole program begins, or maybe at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and organize ourselves in preparation for the opening ritual and then the Monday evening in the crypt. So if you're interested in being on the ritual team, please respond to the email that you'll receive inviting you. And the other thing I wanted to mention, since I'm very engaged in exploring the true essence of number, is something to do with the number 8. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the number 8 before Jim speaks. And, you know, we know in Buddhism, we have an 8-fold path. And we have many references to 8. One of which is 8 is considered the number of justice. And in this country right now, in the United States, we're dealing with some very serious issues of justice. So I thought it would be nice to talk about the number 8. And one of the, in the tarot, the number 8, the 8th card is justice. And if you take the number 8, well, it's the first number that's cubed. So if you have 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. It's the first cubed number. And so that gives it a real grounded stability. If you think of a physical cube, how much strength and stability and groundedness that has, and that justice must be grounded and equal and fair on all sides in the way that a cube is. And 4, we spoke about in an earlier call, is the number that has to do with creation and how everything manifests into creation. And when you double the 4, you have all the elements of creation present, but it's doubled up so that you have the lower forms of creation and the upper forms of creation. And when they're working together, above and below, is when we have justice. And so 4 also has to do with, in the doubling of 4, with the form of life and the form of death. So the aspect of bringing energy, creative force into manifestation, and then dissolving manifestation. So with these images that live within number, and you know what I'm really wanting to do is get everybody as much as possible thinking of numbers not as representing quantity, not representing a little emblem, a symbol, but that number actually has a substance and an essence. Every number does. And when we can penetrate that and we understand this and we live in harmony with sacred number, then our lives are in harmony with the creative forces of the universe. And we're hoping very much that in the United States, justice reigns, and that we are able to actually establish the foundation of 8, or re-establish the foundation of 8 in our country on so many different levels, in the level of leadership and in the level of, civil rights, and in the level of people's health and nutrition and every aspect of life. So we'll say more about 8 when we get together in Chartres, but I just wanted to touch on that for a moment to lead us in a certain direction. So thank you And I would like to invite Jim to share a few things about how he's doing and what he would like to either say about Pythagoras or justice or anything.
Well, it's probably good that I don't pursue the issue of justice in America at the moment. But you raise a very important point, and I think we're on the threshold of justice being transacted, and that if it pursues will be a major testament to the enduring greatness of the American constitutional system. I'm delighted to be here. This is our last call before we actually meet in about 2 months' time. And so I am very appreciative that everyone showed up. We're going into an extraordinary liberal art. And I just want to comment on this very, very briefly, because I want to give ample time for Banafsheh and Jain. But this May is the full moon. The full moon of May marks the birth and enlightenment and death of the Buddha. And in the Great Books course, some of you may have heard my lecture just around the full moon about less than a week ago on the 14th. I did a lecture, one of 2 lectures, I'll give another one next month, on the Dhammapada, which is the collective sayings of the Buddha out of the Pali Canon. And the point I want to just raise here of just singularity, which I think impacts what we're going to be contemplating in my little morning nuggets in Chartres, is the connection between the Buddha and Pythagoras. And they were both contemporaries. And if I had to choose the most profoundly insightful individuals in all of human history, I would put the Buddha at the top. No one, in my judgment, understood reality as deeply as it really is. The Buddha understood that in the end, it's all empty. And that emptiness is a plenitude. And the extraordinary thing about the symmetry between East and West, apparently completely disconnected, is that Pythagoras came to the same insight at about the same time. There are indications that Pythagoras actually traveled to India. He spent about 10 years there. But when he came back to the West and set up his school in southern Italy in a little village called Croton, he offered the most penetrating analysis of reality that the West has ever heard before or since. And that is, if you penetrate with clear vision into the heart of the heart of the heart, that invisibility is constructed in mathematical equations that have color, that have sound, and that are always moving. And out of the movement of the mathematics of the universe comes the manifest world. It's all empty. You know, I can hold up this cell phone and it looks real. But if you deconstruct it, there's actually nothing there but vibrational frequencies. And 2 avatars, 2,500 years ago, realize the truth of how the cosmos is actually constructed. And that's why Pythagoras, not Socrates, not Plato. Plato was merely a student of Pythagoras, which I'll tell that story when we get to Chartres. That was the lecture I didn't give last year. I'm going to start with that lecture. Pythagoras was the first one to be called a philosopher. And he towers over the great philosophical tradition in the West, just like Buddha towers over the metaphysical tradition in the East. And what we're seeking to do in Chartres this year is not only get a clarity about the relationship between arithmetica and being, but I think that what Banafsheh and Jain are going to seek to choreograph in the afternoons is the movement of mathematics, the embodiment of arithmetica. And so as we prepare ourselves for this session, I want us all to just hold that it is probably the arithmetica, that fifth of the liberal arts, that is the origin of all things, out of which the manifest world emerges. That the extraordinary mystery of the cosmos in which we find ourselves as points of awareness right now, today, is constructed of equations in motion. And it's going to be our capacity while we're together for those 7 days to feel the movement of mathematics that will constitute the deeper part of our learning. That's why you move through the labyrinth. It's in the movement that the still point is experienced. So I'm delighted to have Banafsheh and then Jain grace us today in our final session before we meet on July 2nd, I think it is, July 3rd. Some of us are coming in early. So Banafsheh, welcome. Jain, welcome. We look forward to your remarks.
So Banafsheh, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's such a pleasure to share with you today, and I feel so excited to come to Chartres this year and share the gifts of the numbers with everyone. But to begin with, I invite you, if you're sitting on a chair, to place both feet on the ground and feel the earth with your feet. And if you're sitting on the ground, cross-legged or with both knees together, also feel the earth with your feet and legs. Place your left hand in your right hand and let them rest on your thighs. Take a deep breath, inhaling from your nose, exhaling from your mouth, and continue flowing with your breath in this way throughout this short opening. And please close your eyes. Take a deep breath and expand your chest and upper back with your inhalation. And as you exhale, bring your focus to your navel. Take another deep breath, expanding your navel area, chest, upper back. And as you exhale, bring your focus to the base of your spine, your tailbone. Flow with your breath and fill up the volume of your hips, your pelvis. Relax your hips, your buttocks, and spread them on whatever you're sitting on. Take another deep breath, expanding your whole torso with your inhalation. And as you exhale, come alive in your legs. Let your energy course down from your hips into your thighs. Wrap around your knees, your calves, your shins, your ankles, your feet and toes. Take another deep breath, expanding your whole torso with your inhalation. And as you exhale, relax your shoulders. Come alive in your arms. Feel your upper arms, elbows, lower arms, wrists, your hands, your fingers. Take another deep breath, expanding your whole torso with your inhalation. And as you exhale, relax your neck. Trace your whole spine from the bottom of your head all the way to the base of your spine, your tailbone. And flow with your breath, filling up the volume of your upper back, your middle back, and your lower back. Relaxing your hips. Come alive in your whole back, letting your back support your posture. And take another deep breath, expanding your whole torso with your inhalation, and feel your face. As you exhale, soften the top of your head, your forehead and temples, your eyes. Flow with your breath and feel your cheeks. Relax your jaw, your chin. Feel your mouth, your lips. Flow with your breath. Now take one more deep breath, expanding your whole body with your inhalation. And as you exhale, ease your weight into your chair, into whatever you're sitting on. Feel the ground with your feet, feel the earth with gratitude. Flow with your breath and sense your whole body sitting here right now in this moment. And as you're flowing with your breath, feel the movement of energy in your whole body. This delicious feeling of even, balanced flow of energy. با چشم سر مبین مرا، با چشم سر ببین مرا. Don't look at me with the eyes of the head, says Rumi. Look at me with the eyes of mystery. So I invite you to open your eyes if they're not open yet, and look out from mystery onto mystery. I remember Jim defining mystery last year during Musica as looking with soft eyes. For me, approaching numbers is with the eyes of mystery, and I invite you to listen to me with ears of mystery. As you know, as we all know, we live in a world of numbers. Just about everything in our lives is based on numbers. The very way we communicate with street addresses, telephone numbers, identifications, licenses, passports, credit cards, we measure our lives in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. We reflect value through number. How many, how much. But numbers represent that which we cannot control. We cannot control how many hands we get to have as humans, how many fingers, how many eyes, ears, noses. We cannot control how many seconds are in a minute, how many minutes in an hour, how many hours in a day. Our very aging, we cannot control time. So numbers represent the domain of the unknown, the mystery. Yet numbers are exactly the way we describe and navigate in the domain of the known. You cannot get any more concrete and real than numbers. What time are we starting this call? How long will it be? How much is our workshop in Chartres? Do I have enough funds? What time do we start? When do we finish? When do we eat? How many people are coming? How much is the airplane ticket that will take me to Chartres? And what time does the plane take off? You have options, but you finally settle down on one figure and one time, and it's pretty much non-negotiable. So when we talk in numbers, when we talk about time, we speak with such absolute certainty that we have no idea what time really is and when, where it came from. So number is really key for us. It is both totally unknown and mysterious, and totally concrete and real. We navigate between the visible and the invisible, the realms of matter and spirit through number. And what a gift that much of this navigation will be illuminated in stunning ways in our time together in Chartres this year. I'm so looking forward to learning from everyone. And I'd like to segue a little to share about how I'm going to contribute to our journey there. For me, all concepts and ideas come down to two questions. Where is it found in the body, and can I dance it? How do you find the most abstract, mystical concepts right here in the body? I'm in love with the truth as above, so below, and I'm dedicated to finding the above in the below, and to especially find the above in the below and the most mundane through one of the most elevated art forms, which is dance. When great thinkers, philosophers, mystics, and scientists are at a loss for words to describe the mystery and the nature of reality, or when they want to describe it at its most sublime and beautiful, they say it's a dance. So I'd like to invite everyone to this dance of uncovering mystery in the body and dancing for the mystery, in the mystery, as the mystery. Karen so beautifully wrote in the email she sent us that our form is an expression of the sacred wisdom of number. The body is a beautiful representative of the one becoming many and the many becoming one. The proportions and numbers in our bodies are sacred. We have one structure with so many parts, the grossest being 700 muscles and 206 bones, 22 craniofacial bones, 32 teeth, 33 vertebrae that fuse to be 26 in adults, 33 joints in our feet, 12 ribs, 12 meridians, 27 bones and 30 muscles in the hands, 26 bones in the feet, 107 ligaments and 19 muscles and tendons in our feet, approximately 100 billion neurons of brain form the main control center of the body. And let's not forget that we're 99.99999% empty space. And what I just said isn't even a mere fraction of what is in the body. Journeying into the actual physiology and anatomy of the physical body is truly unlimited and miraculous, let alone our energetic bodies and the sacred geometry embedded in us. In our time together, we will play with coming in touch and embodying some of the sacred proportions and numbers and experience the mathematics of the body together with master mathematician Jain and the amazing voice and music of Ruth. The numbers bring us into ourselves and in relationship with others. music and dance connect through number, the rhythm and the tempo. And in our time together, we'll explore the sacred dance of whirling, known as the Samo, which means to listen. We will journey into the relationship of 0 and 1 in the whirling and the stillness in movement. Through the dance and movement that we will be doing, we'll explore ways to ground and embody the beautiful teachings of Jane, Carolyn, Jim, Karen, Apila, Andrew, Our Lady at Chartres, and others, to hopefully become available as vessels to receive transmissions and reactivation of ancient knowledge. This is why I will offer sacred movement in the morning, so we can begin our day by cultivating our vessels and instruments through conscious embodiment and the intention to receive the teachings throughout the day, not just with our brilliant minds, but also with our bodies and hearts, and thereby our souls. We'll come back together in the afternoons and revisit our vessels and dive deeper into the embodiment of the ideas and set them into dance, music, and art. And I want those of us who feel hesitant because of limitations and restrictions you may experience in your body to know that all of us will be dancing from where we find ourselves. The technique in Dance of Oneness, the modality that I teach, is based in kindness to ourselves and to others. And just to say a few words about Dance of Oneness, it operates in 3 dimensions: the art of dance and embodiment, wisdom, teachings, and healing. The healing and becoming whole come from embodying and dancing wisdom teachings, as well as journeying into the chakra system, sacred anatomy and physiology, and Taoist practices, namely Chinese medicine. I'm very happy and honored to announce that Dance of Oneness will be a fully functioning school like the Wisdom School at Ubiquity University very soon. And in closing, I want to say that Our Lady at Chartres Cathedral is probably one of the most magnificent places to discover and embody sacred numbers. I was in Chartres for the first time last year during Musica and stayed for an extra 10 days with many visits to Our Lady, where I had great epiphanies. I can't quite describe this, but after I left, I had profound moments where I experienced my body as the cathedral. Something very ancient was activated in me from being there. And I feel all of us are so blessed to be able to answer the call to explore the mystery of number together in this most holy shrine. Thank you.
Thank you, Banafsheh. That was a beautiful sharing and gave us a wonderful perspective on our body and our experiences that we will look forward to with you when we arrive in Chartres. So thank you very, very much. And Jane, I'd like to welcome you to share.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the discussion. It was wonderful. And I'm very pleased, Karen, that you chose to select the number 8 as the theme for the introduction, because I was going to talk about something special called the prime number cross, which most of us know as the Templar cross. And I'll just show a picture of it here. It happens to have 8 points. So without knowing that you were going to talk about the number 8, I chosen to select a yantra. A yantra is a power diagram. In Sanskrit, it means power, art, or a vehicle. It's a tool, it's a device, it's something that is done like with a pen, but it's psychoactive. It means by drawing and pouring our consciousness into a special 8-sided figure, it becomes alive. And often the yogi would draw something like this, say on the full moon, or he'd be fasting, he'd be in a very sacred space so that everything, his whole consciousness or hers, could pour into a design. And it could be used to heal the body, it could be used for many reasons. Yeah, so the number 8 was interesting because when you suggested number 8 and talked about, Jim was talking about the Buddha, Buddha's enlightenment apparently was in the structure, the fabric of time and space, and he defined space as a cubic thing. He gave it, there's a Sanskrit word called akta kalapas. Akta means 8 and kalapas means atom. So when Buddha had his epiphany, he was trying to tell us that the structure of space had something to do with 8ness. And whatever 8ness means to you, most people know, for example, that this cube has 8 spheres. It's got 8 corners like a dice. So the cube that you were talking about, again, is number 8. So this thing of 8ness is pretty much basic. Even, I think it was Banafsheh was talking about the meditation with at the base of the spine. We had to focus at the base of the spine. Some sacred geometry teachers believe that all our memory, from whether it's from past lives or knowledge of other dimensions, it's all stored in this 8 cells. It's called the 8 original cells. So there's this mystery about the number 8, the cube of space, which stores memory of who we are, where we came from. So again, we don't really know everything, but the shapes store memory. They're a language. And so we see a plain cube. The shadow of this is a square, but if I was to go inside the cube and join all the centers, the face centers, I would have this crystal called fluorite. So you can see it's got 8 triangles. It's a pyramid above and there's a pyramid below, but essentially it's 8 triangles called fluorite crystal. So that's what's inside the cube. If you were a magic spider and you could weave a thread inside the cube and join all the centers, the 6 face centers, you'd get this octahedron, and some people call it a diamond light body. So there's a lot of information stored in the octahedron. And the other shape inside the cube, what we looked like when we were 8 cells, is this shape here. So it is cubic. If I put it flat on my hand, you'll see that you can see the points of a cube. But if you raise it with a point below and a point above, it has the ability to spin. And the shadow of this is the Star of David, the 2 intersecting triangles, which is a tantric symbol. It's the union of the above and the below, the male and the female. Okay, so there's so much information. So when Karen's talking about 8, my mind is illuminated because there's so much information. I could talk about the number 8, but I won't go there. I just wanted to, connect this discussion with what Banafsheh was talking about. So my understanding is that when we learn a yantra and the arithmetic that makes up this Templar cross, how do we therefore interpret that into movement, which is what Jim was talking about, how the movement of arithmetica is the key to integrating this knowledge. So what I would like to do is, I've got 2 little PowerPoints. I want to show you the numbers that generate this wheel of 24. If you look closely at all the points going around, to generate the Templar cross, we need 24 we need 24 numbers, which should suggest to you what a clock is, time. These are time codes. I've got another interpretation of this. There's another prime number. These are decals. These are things that peel off and go on glass. So one is actually, this is a decal, which means it peels off, it goes on glass, so the geometry projects into the room or onto your body for healing. And this one is a sticker. This is a sticker that peels off and goes on any surface, like your water bottle. You could vibrationally magnify the water with the memory of this cross. And if you look around the ring, I've got all the numbers. So the numbers that are around the ring, they're called prime numbers. So to show you that a bit better, I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to go to a PowerPoint on the prime numbers, and that's going to lead to another thing called the movement in the body, the mathematics of the body. The reason why I'm going to talk about the prime number cross is because that's one of on the Friday at the end of the week, that's one day is the prime number cross. So the title, it is this prime number sequence, but we're turning number into art. So today's challenge is like, how how do we take a sequence of numbers that I consider the most important? They're called the prime numbers. They're the atoms of creation. And I'm going to explain how the prime numbers form the cross and why the Queen of England, the most powerful woman in our history, has embraced this on her cloak. She wears this on her body. She wears it not only on her crown. If you look at the very top of the crown, she also, there's a Templar cross at the top, but she also wears it on her cloak. And so first of all, the definition of a prime number is going back to early Greek. I think around the 2nd century, we had 2nd century BC, we had someone like Socrates called Eratosthenes, and Eratosthenes took all the numbers in your multiplication table, right? And he deleted everything that was divisible by 2. So if you look at this chart here, except for the number 2, look at 4, 6, 8, 10, we cross them out. And then we'll take the 3 times table, except for 3, and we cross out every number up to 100. That's 3, 6, and we just keep deleting. So what you're looking at is an anti-times table. We're getting rid of, it's called the sieve, because imagine you pour the first 100 numbers through a strainer, and all the numbers that can be factored or can be multiplied by 2, divisible by 2, 3, 4, or 5, they fall through. And the only numbers that are left, if you look at the first prime number up here, can you see the number 5 and 7 up the top? And then you've got 11, 13, 17, 19. These numbers are prime. Prime means number 1. They can't be divisible by 2 or 3 or 4 or any number. So that's why they're called the atoms of creation. And I consider them to be the most important sequence. We've got the binary sequence, which we'll study on the Monday. We've got Fibonacci sequence we'll talk on the Tuesday. But on the Friday, I'm like leaving the best for last. So I wanted to give you an idea of, we're going to take a sequence called prime numbers. They're in brown. So you can see all the numbers in brown. They're the primes. And when you study this on a mathematical level at university, they actually teach today that the prime numbers are nonsense. That we just, I'm going to show you the amazing symmetry hidden inside the prime numbers. But today, for some strange reason, all prime numbers are considered a nonsense sequence, that they have no value. And the reason why they do that is that those prime numbers, as they go to infinity, are the secret to financial encryption. So when you use your credit card so that no one can steal your data, they use the highest prime numbers, but the numbers that they specifically used are called twin primes, and I'll show you those in a minute. So this man here called James McCanney, he taught doctors at Harvard University, and he discovered the secret pattern in prime numbers, and he got shut down. And 2 people in NASA got murdered when they crossed the floor to support his discovery. So since the time of Pythagoras, we've been told for 2,000 years that there's no harmony in prime numbers. And not even Einstein or the greatest mathematicians on the planet could reveal the pattern. So this man, he revealed it, and he was shut down. So we're still like in a dark ages. I've got all his books and DVDs, and I've tried to teach this symmetry to mathematicians, and they walk away because they believe our prime numbers are useless. So how do we reveal the pattern? What we need to do is take a ring of 24. Why we use 24 is another story, but this is also the secret to cracking the code with the Fibonacci numbers. So to understand the mystery of the Fibonacci numbers and how they all add up to 108, there's a secret recurring 108 vibration that there's a billion Hindus worshipping the numbers. But without this wheel of 24, we have no progress. There's no window will be opened. So you just assume that 24 is key. So when we're going to dance this, you can see that we might need 24 people in a ring. So that's the first part of translating this arithmetic into a dance. So we have a center point, and then we need another ring of 24. So we wrote 1, 2, 3 up to 24. But in the next ring, you see where the number 25 is. So then it goes 25, 26. That's the second ring. And then we could even do a third ring. In fact, we can have infinite rings of 24. So if we had 72 people coming to Chartres, let's aim that we have 72 people. We can have everyone aligned into 3 rings of 24. So this is our stage. This is the dance floor. 3 rings of 24. And it's going to be a bit like eurythmy in the sense where we apply the movement to specific numbers. So you might say, okay, that's just consecutive ordered numbers. What's the big deal? So what we need to do now is we need to plot all the prime numbers. So we go back to the original chart that Eratosthenes had revealed, and we're going to put a blue circle around 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, and you'll see that as we highlight all the prime numbers, there is a sense of symmetry. This is only the first half of the pattern. I need a full day to explain the mystery of symmetry, but if you could visualize that if you draw a line right through the center, there are certain axes of information. So I've highlighted one axis in red, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 4th dimensional cross that links all the atoms of creation to infinity. I might repeat that because that's a pretty powerful statement, that we started off with concentric rings of 24, and then we looked for the prime numbers and we highlighted them, and we realized that all the prime numbers lie upon the axis of the Templar cross. So could you imagine that if you wore this on your heart, this symbol, you were accessing all this ancient knowledge on the cellular level. So if we had to express this on the dance floor, I'd be interested to say, well, first of all, we needed rings of 24. So the dance movement to this would be circular rings, and then we could have people moving across where the red lines are. We could have people moving like in eurythmy, that Steiner, the development of Steiner dance movements where people can move across the 4 axes. So we have movement, we have the meaning of the cross. So what we would do, we would invite the group, the participants, to say, well, what does the cross mean to you? A cross could represent order, structure, the 4 directions. It's very rich in symbolism, the cross. And so we walk the cross as well. So the key word for me is that these are atoms of creation. Every number that's on the cross cannot be divided by 2 or 3 or 4. So it represents extreme or ultimate individuality. But in the individuality, we're connected to the circle, the ring, to the a conference of participants. So it's our individuality within the group consciousness or group mind. And I wanted to show you one more thing. There's another element of the spiral. You can't see the spiral, but so this is very rich in symbolism, and I could focus a lot on it, but I just want to go on a little bit more. So I've written a book, my main book, I've written nearly 30 books, but I believe that this prime number cross is the most potent symbol in the universe. And that's probably why 1 million people, the Cathars in the 12th century, I believe, were murdered or witch hunted. If you resonated to this symbol, which I also believe is the symbol for the bloodline of Jesus, if you wore this cross, you were persecuted. But from a mathematical point of view, I'm interested in the mass consciousness. This is a weaving, this is a tapestry. You'll see the cross everywhere. But the question is, why would the Queen of England wear this on her robe? Why did the royalty adopt? Why is the prime number cross a royal symbol? They could have chosen the Star of David, a pentacle, but for some reason they adopted this cross. And that's what got me very interested in. There's more to the cross than we actually realize. So we have to go back to the numbers. I've got a very rare library here, so I've sort of scanned these images of the Order of St. John from very old books, and you'll see that the generals of war, when they get knighted, they wear the cross. And we also know it's a healing symbol from the time of St. John, which we won't go into now. And even Hitler adopted the cross, because if you wanted to rule the world, you need to own and seize the power of this information. So the Nazi symbol, the prime number cross, these were key elements to hold. I have a friend in Byron Bay who took 24 seashells and then he glued them with some sort of resin on the flat surface. So there's 24 spirals, which was interesting. But then he did something I'd never seen before. He glued the seashells of 24, rings of 24, into a 3-dimensional cross. So sacred geometry would invite you to say, okay, we just saw the prime number cross, but it's in flatland. We're not interested in shadows and 2D. What would the cross look like in 3 dimensions? So you have to add another axis of symmetry. Can you see that composition of shells in there? It's quite interesting. So it's an untapped design for future technologies. This 3-dimensional prime number cross is so amazing. I haven't even started to work with it. It's a sculpture in space. And actually, I'll go back to it. I think it's the Coptic. I think there's a church in Australia here called the Coptic Church, which I think comes from Ethiopia. And on top of the church, instead of just having a normal cross, they have a third cross going through it, just like the seashell here. So the 3-dimensional cross could be the axis for a cube or a multi-dimensional cube. There's more to this than we realize. So this is a typical worksheet. So when I do a worksheet with everyone at Chartres, I wanted to show you that, imagine I hadn't shown you any of this and we start writing 1, 2, 3, we write the rings, we start with a blank sheet and we complete it, then we draw the cross. So I normally need half an hour for us to integrate the knowledge. The worksheets are important because we don't want to just listen and speak knowledge. We want to draw it and integrate it and dance it. So that's a worksheet. Just skip some of these. What I wanted to come across, you might ask yourself, why does India, the flag of India is a wheel, but if you counted all the spokes on the wheel, India has a flag with 24 rays on it. Why is that? Like, we need to start asking. They didn't use 20 or 16, they used 24 for a specific reason, because it's the 4th-dimensional cross. A lot of this information is not mine. I've worked this out for myself, but there's a Peter Plichter wrote a book about it called The God's Secret Formula. So you can see the rings of 24 that are there. It's a time code. And the picture on the right here is an atomic structure. I think it's of something like iridium. There's a very special set of periodic table elements called the platinum crystal set. And so this atomic structure shows that Maltese cross-like structure of nature. But just to close off this PowerPoint, because I want to move on to the maps of the body, there was a Russian mystic called Ulam, and he decided to plot on graph paper just the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you look at a central diagram where there's number 1, can you see how the numbers on graph paper go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they're spiraling around the number 1. But he didn't have computers in his time. This is like 30 years ago. So he could only plot the patterns of spiral numbers up to 1,000 or say even 5,000. And he got a little bit of symmetry. He wrote all the numbers in a spiral and he said, where's all the prime numbers? So he circled them, he colored them in. He said, oh my God, look, some of these, there's a diagonal of primes and it's intersected by another one. There's some symmetry and it stopped there. And then the computer age came. And the computer could take prime numbers to millions of digits and then billions of digits. And you can see these are all the prime numbers. You know, like when you're flying down into a city from an airport and you see all the street lights from below, it looks very similar to the symmetry of the prime numbers. And if we take it even further into the billions, it just keeps going on and on to the point where, thanks to a computer, that's the highest level of prime numbers that we see up to now. And you're looking not at a randomness, you're looking at high structured organic geometry. So this is the prime numbers from another perspective called the spiral, which Banafsheh would be to somehow integrate the movement of the spiral with the cross. But the spiral of 1, 2, 3 on graph paper revealed a rose, a flower. It's absolutely, and there's 8 distinct components to it, 2, 4, 6, 8. If you look closely at this ulam rose, you'll see that there's 8 distinct petals to it. It's not a perfect flower, but it's very uncanny, and that's the mystery. I can't explain this. I'm just like all of us. We're just researchers into the mysteries, and we're using arithmetica to find meaning and order and symmetry. And this could only be produced by spiraling on graph paper. And we can do this. We can actually do some of this on the worksheet. We won't have time to do all of this stuff, but I wanted to end that there and just quickly go to the other PowerPoint. So this section here is called the Mathematics of the Human Body, and it's an attempt to link the arithmetica with the dance movements. So this is a little section I'm going to do on Tuesday on the Fibonacci sequence, where we look at the golden ratio. The golden ratio is the sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and every part of the human body is in this ratio. But I'm actually going to talk about this on Tuesday, but to fit into Banafsheh's curriculum on the Monday, we're going to link this up with dance. So the arm is the best symbol we have of the Fibonacci sequence, where all the digits, they don't go like 2, 4, 6, 8. They don't double in distance. They off-centered, and they go at the ratio 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And perhaps the most important, most famous artwork in our lifetime, or for 500 years, would be the Mona Lisa or the Vitruvian Man, because the proportion of the eyes to the nose, to the lips, to the chin, every part of her face obeyed the phi ratio, the golden ratio, which I'll call it as a number. It's 1.618. It's and like I said, I'm going to do a whole day on this, the mystery of 1.618. It's my passion. But even the canvas was in a golden rectangle. So the ratio of the canvas that the Mona Lisa was drawn onto was 8 to 13, which is mathematics of a pine cone when we look at the spirals. Okay, and the second most famous drawing in the universe would be the Vitruvian Man. So even though this was like 1,000 years, this was drawn 1,000 years ago by a Roman architect who kind of said, well, if we're going to draw a temple, the columns would represent the human spine and the windows would represent the eyes. And this inspired Leonardo da Vinci very much, because every part of the human body is in the ratio 8 to 13. So the hips would be at the midpoint, but the belly button would be at the golden mean. That mystical golden ratio is expressed in the human body at the navel. So the navel, is whatever that means to you, it's a point of creation. So we stand inside of a square with the arms outstretched. The span from finger to finger is identical to the height from the toes to the head. So we actually fit in a square. So if we turned 90 degrees around in space, we actually form a cube. So our human constitution is actually cubic, which is going back to what Karen was talking about, is that the cube of space that we fit into, the whole physical body, is 8 points around us in space. There's a lot of amazing software at the moment called Phi Matrix, where if you want to compose a building or do a drawing, you're given the blueprint where to place the eyes, nose, and lips. So that's all in the 358 ratio. And in stock trading, people trade on these numbers. They watch 358 and then it drops, then it goes 358. It's called the Elliott wave principle. So it's throughout all creation. So as a builder, I'm actually a bricklayer by trade, and I grew up on building sites all my life. And it was always a challenge to get the ceiling, the height of the ceiling correct. Because if you don't get the height of the ceiling right, you can feel very dwarfed. So you can see that what I would like you to focus on is the double cube. I'd like to see that there's someone standing inside the cube, and to get the right height, we need to go one more cube above us. So that's an important ratio. The diagonal that goes through the space, the diagonal that goes through the face of the double cube is called root 5. It has a value of 2.236. And that root 5 is critical to understanding the formula for the golden mean. So when we talk about this on Tuesday, the golden mean formula is 1 plus root 5 divided by 2. But what is root 5? Well, you're looking at root 5 here. It's the diagonal of a double cube, which links very much to Thor's hammer. The power in Thor's hammer was a double cube. And the other way to look at a cube is fractally. So when we look at the cube within the cube, we end up with what's called Metatron's cube. And these ancient symbols of cubes within cubes, fractal cubes, were adopted by all the archangels. So it's a very fascinating topic, the cube within the cube. So when we stay inside of a cube, a square, and our arms are outstretched, if we do another step where we spread our legs out and raise our arms, we actually don't touch the square anymore, we touch a circle. And the relationship between the square and the circle is that there's a golden ratio harmonic. To go from the square, I have to increase my square to hit the circle at a ratio called 1.27. And that's called the square root or the golden root, because the number 1.27, the movement from the square to the circle, means when I multiply 1.27 by itself, I get this mystical ratio 1.618. So the square is the cube and the circle is the sphere. So only the phi ratio, the 358 proportion, can successfully make heaven and earth meet through the cube and the sphere. Later on, when we do compass work, we can intersect circles, which creates a flower of life. And the flower of life is just the intersection of circles. But we see here the Vesica Pisces, which also forms the mathematics of the pyramid. When you go fractal, when you put the vesica within its own mandala, within the eye shape, we end up with the proportions of the harmonic ratios in the pyramid. Most people know that the shape of the ear or the skull is like this spiral. We've seen the hand. We'll go through this. So there's the 8:13 ratio in the joints of the hand. Okay, I'm almost done. In fact, what I like about the proportions, every proportion that's in your knuckles, from the wrist to your fingertips, there's various lengths of bones going through from wrist to fingertip. And if we analysed all those lengths, they're all exactly the subcomponents of the pentagon. So if we were to measure all the different lengths hidden inside the pentagon, they're all actually embodied in our hand, every proportion. So the scale would be 1:1.618, and then we square the phi ratio, we get 2.618, and if we cube it, phi cubed, we get a larger number, 4 point something. So it's just interesting to know that everything within the pentagon is in our hand as well. I was on Dan Winter's side, and someone's just studying the golden ratio found in the uterus, in the feminine cavities. That's all 358 ratio, which is interesting. And before I move to the next slide, if I was to ask you, what are you looking at here? You might say, oh, I'm looking at a forest, or it looks like trees or something. And there's a picture on the right of an oak in California, but you're not actually looking at trees, even though it looks organic. You're actually looking at a child's, that image on the left is actually the arteries inside a child's kidney. So this is the mathematics of the human body. It's a living construction, but it has an affinity with nature. But it's in the microscopic world, but it's also expressed in the macrocosm, from microtubules, veins to trees and river systems even. I think I had a river, yeah, so you can see when you're flying over the landscape, you can see that the river system is a fractal of the human circulatory system. I'm going to talk a lot. My key word when I'm talking charts, it's going to be what is fractal. Fractal is like having a baby. It's making a copy of the mother, makes a copy of herself to become a child. Then that child has reproduction, and it's all about successful reproduction. So you can see here the hand becomes a smaller hand, another hand. It goes a bit like the lungs, that goes from infinitely large tubes to very fine tubes. So I'm going to talk a lot about fractal because that's really what it's all expressed in the golden mean. Okay, and just to close off, I'd just like to show that the real relationship between the mathematics of the body is when we sit and meditate. If you just ask anyone to sit cross-legged, which is what Banafsheh invited us to do, when we actually sit and our spine is correct and the legs are crossed, can you see that we actually form a pyramid? We actually form a tetrahedron. And the tetrahedron is like, you kind of think of a triangular vision, but it's more than triangular. It's actually, it takes 4 spheres to make this sort of triangular shape. So the hidden symbolism behind the tetrahedron is not 3, it's actually 4. So you're looking at the 4 centers of 4 spheres, makes a pyramid. So 4 is about, like Karen explained, 4 is about form, it's about structure, it's about crystallization, it's anchoring the Trinity into the next level of consciousness, and it stacks as a pyramid. So it's just lovely to know that when we sit in stillness, we're embodying all this sacred geometry in our sitting posture. Okay, that's a dodecahedron, and I'm very interested also, I'll finish off on this, I'm very interested in when you look at a shadow of a mandala. We all love what a mandala is, but what's more important is understanding where did that shadow come from. And if you could, this is where you have to enter the multi-dimension. So when you go into multi-dimensional polyhedra and you shine a light upon them, you see a flat mandala, but we're still stuck in the mandala. We're more interested, in fact, the original, what you're looking at, the shadow there is not actually a mandala, that's the wrong word. A mandala is actually the spherical polyhedron, because the mandal comes from the word le monde, means the world. It visualizes a 3-dimensional sphere. So the real mandala is the multi-dimensional sphere, and what we call mandala is actually a yantra. It's literally the flat shadow. So the shift in understanding is to go from the shadow to the multi-dimensional form. And there are yogis in India, when I spent time in India, the yogis would have a thing where they would wear the yantra, they would wear the prime number cross, or the numbers that make it, or if it's a magic square, they would tie ribbons, strings to the 2 ends of the jewelry and put it on their biceps. So you see yogis wearing sacred mathematical copper jewelry, we call them amulets, and they tie them to the bicep, because the bicep not just represents physical strength, it means that we have integrated all this knowledge of arithmetic and music and geometry into our being. And that's why we're a yogi, because I think yoga means union. So by wearing this on the human body, we're just reminding ourselves that there is an order amongst the apparent chaos. So that's called yantra. We have the yantra, which is the power diagram. The mantra would be, I think that's Ruth's work, is the sound. Without the sound, everything I've just spoken about is meaningless. So the mantra is probably what activates the diagrams. And the tantra would be like the Star of David, where you have the union of male and female, the material physical world with the spiritual world. And the jantra is the amulet, why we're attracted to have certain vibratory objects in our field. And at the end of the day, we don't need anything. We don't need any jantra or yantra, because we've embodied it, and that's it. So I just wanted to just give you a glimpse of what I will be doing, and I'm really excited to be connecting with Banafsheh. Her work is timeless, and it's really, really important that we take knowledge to the next level with her understanding of heavenly movement. And so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jane. Good.
Okay.
That was a fabulous presentation. And I have a question, although we don't have much time. If only answer this if you can give me a very quick answer. But when you
Yes.
showed the mathematics of the Templar cross, that from the 24 using the prime numbers, you omitted 2 and 3 as prime numbers. Why did you do that?
That's a really good question. That's the first question everyone asks. I don't, for some reason, it doesn't fit on the wheel of 24. I don't know why it's omitted, even though it is the prime number sequence. What we're more interested in this diagram is the twin pairs, like 17 and 19. At the 4 crosses, at the 4 points, we've got all these twins, and they're the ones that I'm really focused on. But at the beginning, because 1, 2, and 3 seems to be the generator of this sequence,
Right.
and it's never been included in the prime number cross. I don't know why. It's a good question. Maybe the question could lead to another deeper understanding of why it's been omitted.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there are other numbers that have been omitted. What I showed you there is only half the symmetry. There's more to it.
So that's something we could explore when we're together in Chartres.
Yes, that's right.
Good.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you.
So I think that I want to thank you again and thank Banafsheh. And I think Apila has left. So I'm wondering, Ruth, would you like to sing something for us as our closing?
I have a very short poem written by my sister, and I'll just sing that. It's about going back to the quiet place. I am slowly coming back to the quiet place, the way a leaf steadies as it falls, the way a hush falls between the waves, the way the wind falls at dusk. I am slowly coming back to the quiet place.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. It was beautiful. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, and we are looking forward to being together in not too long of a time, a little over a month's time in Chartres, and wish you all a very blessed June and the last week of May, and safe travels when you set forth. There's always there are always interesting encounters that occur on the journey, which is part of our pilgrimage. So I just wish you all a blessed time until we meet in person in Chartres. And thank you again for joining us. And thank you, Jane and Banafsheh and Ruth, for your support today in our call. And look forward to seeing you all soon. Many blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.